Prologue. My wife, Isabelle, has been in a coma for a year. In 30 days, our 5-year contract marriage would be over. Not only would I walk away with a payout so large I could never spend it all, but I would finally be a free man. I leaned over her hospital bed, giddy as I mapped out my future life of leisure. I had no idea her soul was floating right above my head, hearing every single word. The next day, she woke up. Chapter 1. Izzy, it's a beautiful day out. Too bad you can't see it. I peeled an apple, the skin spiraling off in one long, unbroken ribbon under my knife. Just 30 more days until our contract is up. Don't you worry, even if you stay like this, the money the Sterlings are giving me is more than enough to keep you in the best long-term care facility until the end of time. I sliced the peeled apple into neat wedges and placed them on a plate beside her bed, even though I knew she couldn't eat them. You know, these 5 years flew by. Besides the day we signed the papers at the courthouse, we could count the number of times we've seen each other on one hand. You were busy building your empire. I was living my quiet life. It was a peaceful arrangement. But don't worry, as soon as your brother takes over everything, I'll take the money and disappear. I promise you'll never see me again. I won't cause you any trouble. I kept up my rambling monologue like I was checking off a daily chore. A year ago, my contract wife, the iron-fisted CEO of Sterling Industries, Isabelle Sterling, was in a bizarre car accident. The doctors declared her brain dead, a vegetable. And for me, Liam Hayes, the man Isabelle's grandfather had handpicked to be her convenient, no-strings-attached husband, a new dawn was finally breaking. 4 or 5 years, I had played the part of the perfect, useless trophy husband. I never interfered with Isabelle's decisions, never got involved in Sterling Industries business. My days consisted of hitting the gym, trying new restaurants, and playing with my cat, the life of a retired old man. Everyone thought I was just some gold digger living off my wife. Only I knew that this was exactly the life I wanted. I'd been transmigrated into this world, inheriting this body and this ridiculous contract. The original owner was a spoiled, good-for-nothing playboy, which made it easy for me to embrace my new anti-hustle lifestyle. My real businesses, managed by my fiercely loyal subordinate, were valuable enough to fund 10 lifetimes of extravagance. But who says no to more money? The Sterling family's astronomical payout was too good to pass up. Izzy, I ever tell you I still don't get why you picked me? Was it my charming good looks? Or the fact that I'm so obedient? I squeezed her cold fingers, talking to myself. Whatever. Doesn't matter now. Once I get that money, I'm going to travel the world, eat my way through every Michelin-starred restaurant, and then find a nice quiet place in wine country to open my own vineyard. And you'll still be here, smelling nothing but antiseptic. As soon as the words left my mouth, I felt like a bit of a monster, but damn if it didn't feel good. What I didn't know was that in the air, just above me, a translucent figure was floating silently. It was Isabelle's soul. She heard every word. Her vacant eyes first flashed with disbelief, then filled with an infinite, chilling scorn. Not only had she heard my plans, but for the past year, she had been a spectator to a whole other drama. She had watched her most trusted friend, the one person she had considered a sister, Victoria Vance, sob crocodile tears after the accident, only to secretly meet with the driver who caused the crash and hand him a debit card. She had watched as Victoria systematically absorbed shares of her company, charmed her family, and tried to take her place. The sheer force of her hatred and the sting of betrayal threatened to tear her soul apart. And now here was her husband, in name only, cheerfully plotting how to get his hands on her fortune. Perfect, just perfect. Isabelle's soul let out a silent, bitter laugh, and a powerful, unyielding will erupted from her very core. As I stood up to leave, the index finger of the hand I had just been holding twitched. Chapter 2. The next morning, my phone started buzzing off the hook, a frantic series of calls waking me from a deep sleep. It was the Sterling family's house manager, his voice trembling. Mr. Hayes. Sir, it's terrible. No, wait, it's wonderful. Miss Sterling. She's awake. I shot up in bed, my mind roaring. Awake? How could she be awake? My world tour, my Michelin star food journey, my vineyard dreams, my astronomical payout. I rushed to the hospital to find a crowd gathered outside her room. Isabelle's parents, her brother, and a flock of doctors all wore expressions of ecstatic relief. I pushed my way through and saw her, propped up against the pillows, She was thinner, her face pale, but her eyes were astonishingly bright. Gone was the gentle, detached look she used to have. Now, her eyes were like chips of ice, burning with an inner fire, sharp enough to pierce your soul. Our gazes met across the room. My heart dropped into my stomach. Game over. She heard me. She had to have heard all that garbage I was spouting yesterday. In a typical dramatic storyline, this is where she'd point a shaking finger at me, have me thrown out with nothing, and then have her brother's security break my legs and dump me in an alley. I swallowed hard, bracing myself for the verdict. But Isabelle just gave me a fleeting glance before looking away, as if I were a complete stranger. She turned to her brother, Julian Sterling, the current acting CEO of Sterling Industries. Her voice was raspy from disuse, but every word was clear and landed with the force of a hammer blow. Julian, my phone. He scrambled to hand it to her. Isabelle took it, unlocked it, and her slender fingers flew across the screen. She put the phone to her ear. It's me. Effective immediately, I want you to file an emergency petition with the courts for an asset preservation order. Freeze every account held by Victoria Vance and the Vance Foundation. Yes, all of them. The reason? Suspected wire fraud and embezzlement. For evidence, have the legal team check the safe in my office. The combination is... She rattled off a string of numbers. Also, get PR on the line. I want a press release drafted. State that upon regaining consciousness, I discovered irregularities in the cash flow of several projects and will be conducting a full internal audit. I want that release to go out before the news that I'm awake is made public. You could have heard a pin drop in a room. Everyone was stunned into silence by Isabelle's rapid-fire, ruthless commands. Was this the same poised, elegant heiress they all knew? She sounded more like a vengeful queen who had just clawed her way back from hell. I stood at the back of the crowd, my mouth hanging open, completely floored. She wasn't dealing with me first. The first thing she does after waking up isn't to kick out the gold-digging husband who was planning to cash her out, but to go straight for the throat of her supposed best friend. This wasn't how the script was supposed to go. After the call, Isabelle tossed the phone aside as if it had drained all her energy and closed her eyes wearily. Her parents rushed forward, cooing over her with concern. Julian, his face a grim mask, immediately turned and left to carry out her orders. No one even looked at me. I stood there, feeling like an outsider watching a hurricane take shape. Isabelle's profile was almost translucent in the morning light, her long eyelashes casting shadows on her cheeks. She looked so fragile, yet she radiated an intimidating power that warned everyone to keep their distance. It suddenly occurred to me that I had never really known my own wife, and I had no idea that as Isabelle lay there with her eyes closed, she had a crystal-clear image of my gleeful face from the day before. Take the money and run? Live a life of leisure. Liam Hayes, it's not going to be that easy. Until I've dragged my enemies through the mud, my useless husband still has a part to play. Chapter 3, I returned to the house I shared with Isabelle, a sprawling estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, with a deeply unsettled feeling. I was expecting to be greeted by the house manager, Arthur, holding a set of divorce papers, or more directly, to find my luggage already packed and sitting on the curb. Instead, when the door opened, Arthur greeted me with a deferential bow. Mr. Hayes, welcome home. His demeanor was more respectful than ever before. I blinked. Arthur, Sir, Ms. Sterling gave us instructions. Arthur interrupted, a polite smile on his face. She said you worked very hard looking after her this past year, and that I am to ensure you are well taken care of. Your meals will now be prepared by our new chef, Chef Antoine. He previously held 3 Michelin stars and is a master of classic French cuisine. My jaw went slack. Following Arthur into the dining room, I saw a man in a crisp chef's uniform who immediately bowed to me. The table was already set with a magnificent 4-course meal that looked and smelled divine. My favorite, coco vin, was the centerpiece. Ms. Sterling specifically requested this for you, sir, Arthur said from behind me. She said you were fond of it. My eyes started to twitch. How did she know that? I think I mentioned it offhandedly at a family dinner once, years ago. Furthermore, Arthur continued, leading me toward the back of the house. Ms. Sterling mentioned your passion for fitness and felt the home gym equipment was outdated. She has ordered a complete, top-of-the-line set from Techno Gym. which will be delivered and installed this afternoon. You will be able to enjoy a world-class workout experience right here at home. I stared at the old gym, where workers were already dismantling the equipment. My brain felt like it was short-circuiting. What was this? Was this some kind of good cop, bad cop routine? But she hasn't even played the bad cop yet. Was this a reward? A reward for my devoted care over the past year? A reward for fantasizing about her inheritance at her bedside? The more I thought about it, the more a chill crept down my spine. This woman was terrifying. She didn't play by any normal rules. She was like a master hunter who, despite having already set a foolproof trap, insists on luring you in with the most irresistible bait, letting you gorge yourself as you walk step by step into the snare. Sir, Arthur's voice broke my trance. Miss Sterling had one more message for me to pass along to you. What is it? I asked, snapping back to reality. Arthur cleared his throat, attempting to mimic Isabelle's tone. He didn't quite nail it, but he captured about 70% of her cool authority. She said, "Stay put. Enjoy it. You've earned it." I've earned it. What in the world had I earned? I sat at the dining table, eating the Michelin-starred chef's masterpiece, but it tasted like ash in my mouth. My cat, Crouton, sauntered over and lazily wound himself around my legs. I looked down at him with only one thought in my head. This isn't just lunch, is it? This is my last meal. Meanwhile, in her VIP hospital room, Isabelle was reviewing a report from her assistant, Chloe. "What's the situation with Victoria Vance?" "Ms. Sterling, your move was devastating," Chloe said, her face alight with admiration. The second her accounts were frozen, the funding for several of her key projects dried up, and her company's stock plummeted. She's running around like a madwoman trying to borrow money, but no one will touch her. A cold smirk played on Isabelle's lips. That was just the appetizer. "And Liam?" she asked. "Mr. Hayes is back at the estate. He seemed to enjoy Chef Antoine's cooking, and a new gym is being installed as we speak." "Good." Isabelle nodded. "Keep an eye on him. Fulfill any request he has. But I also want a report of everyone he meets and every call he makes." "Yes, ma'am." After Chloe left, Isabelle stared out the window. She remembered Liam's face yesterday as he sat by her bed, peeling that apple and muttering to himself. He wanted to travel the world, eat at the best restaurants, and open his own vineyard. His eyes had held a sparkle of genuine excitement for the future, something she had never seen in him before. That wasn't the look of a man content to be useless. "Liam Hayes." She whispered his name. "What kind of person are you, really? You want a quiet life. I'm afraid I can't let that happen. My revenge saga has just begun, and what would it be without my leading man?" Chapter 4. Isabelle's thunderous return sent shockwaves through New York's high society. No one could have imagined that a near-fatal accident wouldn't just fail to break the Sterling heiress, but would forge her into someone even more formidable. As for the other main character in this drama, Victoria Vance was in full-blown panic mode. She stormed into the hospital, ready to play her favorite role, the beautiful, misunderstood victim. "Izzy, let me explain. This has to be some kind of mistake." Victoria threw herself at the bedside, tears streaming down her face as if she'd been grievously wronged. "I happened to be dropping off some fresh clothes for Isabelle, so I just leaned against the doorframe, folded my arms, and settled in to watch the show." Isabelle, propped up against her pillows, didn't even bother to open her eyes. She just spoke to her assistant, Chloe, in a flat voice. "Read her the audit report on the Vance Foundation." Chloe immediately stepped forward, opened a file, and began to read in a cold, emotionless monotone. The Vance Foundation, established with a $50 million endowment from Sterling Industries for the purpose of supporting young entrepreneurs. However, over the past year, the foundation's director, Ms. Victoria Vance, used her position to divert approximately $32 million through 27 shell corporations into a personal offshore account. With every number Chloe read, the color drained further from Victoria's face. By the end, she had collapsed onto the floor, her lips trembling, utterly speechless. A mistake. Isabelle finally opened her eyes, her gaze slicing into Victoria. "Are these numbers also a mistake?" I didn't." Victoria stammered, making one last, desperate attempt. "Izzy, I was framed. Someone is trying to turn us against each other." "Us?" Isabelle laughed, a sound completely devoid of warmth. Victoria, for the past year, you've worn my clothes, used my perfume, driven my car, lived in my apartment, and made a play for my husband. And now you want to talk about us? Her voice was quiet on the last sentence, but it carried a deadly chill. Victoria looked as if she'd been struck by lightning. You? How could you know? I know a lot more than you think. Isabelle's expression hardened into pure disgust. Get out, before I change my mind and have you sent directly to prison. Victoria scrambled out of the room as if the devil himself were on her heels. I pushed off the doorframe, thoroughly impressed. Hurry! That was a masterclass in taking down a frenemy. How had I never noticed that my wife was such a powerhouse? My gaze fell on Isabelle, and she turned to meet it. Her eyes, which had been glacial just a moment before, thawed slightly, though they were still sharp with scrutiny. Had enough of a show? Not at all. I shrugged, being honest. That was incredibly satisfying. She seemed surprised by my answer. A flicker of something, maybe a smile, touched her lips. You found her annoying too? Annoying is an understatement. I scoffed. Every time I saw her put on that fake innocent act, I wanted to smash a plate over her head. It was the truth. Victoria had never missed an opportunity to flaunt her sisterly bond with Isabelle in front of me, usually while making a backhanded comment about me being a gold digger. Isabelle stared at me for a few long seconds, then said, "Come here." I walked over to the bed. She raised her hand, hesitated for a moment, then let it rest on my wrist, her grip light, but firm. Her skin was cool, and I could feel a faint tremor in her fingers. "Liam," she said, her eyes locked on mine. "From now on, stay away from her. Don't touch anything she's ever touched." Her tone wasn't a command. It was more like a warning, or maybe even protective. That strange, unsettling feeling was back. What was she planning? Chapter 5. While I was enjoying my daily feast from a Michelin-starred chef, sweating it out in a state-of-the-art gym, and generally trying to figure out what game Isabelle was playing, an unexpected visitor appeared. Jasmine Croft, the notoriously icy CEO of Croft Holdings and, coincidentally, the ex-fiancée of the man whose body I now inhabited. Years ago, the Croft and Hayes families had arranged their engagement, but after a few meetings, Jasmine had unilaterally broken it off, citing incompatible ambitions. The truth was she couldn't stand the original Liam's playboy lifestyle. After I married into the Sterling family, she practically used me as a cautionary tale in her social circle, often remarking that a man's worth was in his career and that relying on a woman was the ultimate disgrace. And now, here she was, sitting across from me in a bespoke power suit, her expression radiating an undisguised contempt. "Liam, I heard Isabelle is awake," she said, getting straight to the point. "Word travels fast." I replied, taking a sip of tea. "I'm here to offer you a way out," Jasmine said, leaning forward and steepling her fingers on the table in a classic power pose. "I know what kind of person Isabelle is. Now that she's back in control, the first thing she'll do is clean house, and that starts with a useless appendage like you. It will be better to leave on your own terms and keep some of your dignity, rather than wait for her to kick you out." I raised an eyebrow, but said nothing, letting her continue. "Leave the Sterlings and come work for me," she said, dangling the bait. "I'll create a vice president position for you. 7-figure salary. It might not be the life of luxury you have here, but at least you'll be earning your own money. You'll be a real man." I almost laughed out loud. A 7-figure salary? Was she serious? The smallest of my companies had a daily cash flow that dwarfed that number. "Ms. Croft," I said, setting my cup down slowly, "I think you might be mistaken about a few things." "Mistaken?" she sneered. "Am I mistaken that you're a gold digger? Or that you're about to be thrown to the curb?" "I just think," I said, looking at her with a hint of pity, "that you're really overstepping." Jasmine's face immediately darkened. "Don't be a fool, Liam. All Isabelle can give you is temporary comfort. Once she's tired of you, you'll be worse off than anyone." "Is that so?" A cool voice drifted in from the doorway. Jasmine and I both turned. Isabelle was home. She was wearing a simple white sundress, her long hair down, making her look soft and harmless. But the moment she entered, the atmospheric pressure in the room seemed to drop. Behind her were her assistant, Chloe, and a man I didn't recognize, who was holding an elegant pastry box. Isabelle didn't even glance at Jasmine. She walked directly to my side and sat down, her movement fluid and natural. Then, she did something that made both mine and Jasmine's eyes go wide. She reached out and gently brushed a piece of non-existent lint from my shoulder, her tone playfully scolding. "Why did you start entertaining guests without me? I thought we agreed you'd let me handle all the messy things from now on." Her tone, her expression, it was the picture of a couple deeply in love. Jasmine's face instantly turned a shade of crimson. "Isabelle," the ice on Jasmine Croft's face finally cracked, her expression a mask of disbelief. Only then did Isabelle seem to notice her, raising her eyes with a lazy boredom. "Oh, Miss Croft, what a surprise." Her dismissive tone was more insulting than any slur. "I was just discussing something with Liam," Jasmine said, struggling to maintain her composure. "Discussing something?" Isabelle let out a soft laugh. She took the pastry box from the man behind her and opened it in front of me. Inside were several exquisitely crafted macarons. What could be so important that the CEO of Croft Holdings would have to come all the way to my home to discuss it? As she spoke, she used a small silver fork to pick up a pink macaron and held it to my lips. "Try this. They were flown in from Paris this morning. Rose lychee, your favorite." I froze. Since when was that my favorite? I looked into Isabelle's eyes, which held a silent command, then glanced at Jasmine, whose face was growing stormier by the second. I had no choice but to open my mouth. It was sickeningly sweet, but I swallowed it without flinching and gave a convincing nod. Delicious. I'm glad you like it." Isabelle smiled, satisfied. She then turned her gaze back to Jasmine. "Now, Miss Croft, what was it you wanted to discuss with my husband?" She deliberately emphasized the words "my husband." Beneath the table, Jasmine's hands were clenched into tight fists, her knuckles white. "I simply feel Liam's talents are being wasted here," she ground out. "Oh, really?" Isabelle looked like she'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. She turned to me, her eyes sparkling. "Darling, I had no idea you possess talents that even the great Jasmine Croft admires." I rubbed my nose. Must be my face. It's a very talented face. A snort of laughter escaped from Chloe, who quickly covered her mouth. Isabelle laughed too, a genuine musical sound. She reached out and playfully pinched my cheek. "You're ridiculous." She turned back to Jasmine, the smile vanishing from her face, replaced by a glacial coldness. "Miss Croft, you needn't worry yourself about discovering my husband's talents. His talents are for my benefit, for keeping me company and making me happy, not for being your corporate workhorse. Whether he's wasting them or not is for me to decide. Now, if you'll excuse us, my husband has had a long day and needs to rest." It was an unambiguous, brutal dismissal. Jasmine's pride had been shattered. She stared at me, her eyes searching my face for any sign of reluctance or coercion. But I just calmly picked up another macaron and started eating it. Are you kidding me? A personal Michelin-starred chef, a world-class gym, and a beautiful, powerful wife to fend off all my problems? I'd hit the jackpot. Finally, Jasmine couldn't take it anymore. She shot to her feet, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You'll regret this, Isabelle." She threw the threat over her shoulder and stormed out. Silence descended on the room. I looked at Isabelle, who was watching me with a deep, unreadable expression. "What's the matter? Feeling proud of yourself? Having your ex-fiancé try to poach you right in front of me?" she asked suddenly, a sour note in her voice I couldn't quite place. It took me a second to process it. Was she jealous? "Not proud, exactly," I said, setting down my fork and leaning back against the sofa. "Just curious. How did you know she was coming?" "The line of people wanting to steal you from me is longer than you think," Isabelle said, deflecting the question. She picked up a green pistachio macaron, took a small bite, and frowned slightly. Clearly, she wasn't a fan of sweets. I suddenly remembered a detail from Jasmine's dossier. She had a secret obsession with cute things, especially pastries. So, this box of macarons wasn't for me. It was for Jasmine to see. This woman's mind was a labyrinth. "Liam," she said, leaning in so close I could smell the faint, pleasant scent of gardenia on her skin. "That was a good performance just now." Performance? I raised an eyebrow. What else would it be? A sarcastic smile touched her lips. "Did you really think I'd fall in love with a man who was counting down the days until he could cash in on my coma?" My heart plummeted. Chapter 7. Isabelle's words hit me like a bucket of ice water. So, she knew everything. All the preferential treatment, the public displays of affection. It was all an act. A show for Jasmine, for Victoria, for everyone who looked down on me and was waiting for me to fail. From the very beginning, I, Liam Hayes, was nothing more than a pawn in her grand revenge scheme, a piece of camouflage to confuse her enemies. Fina, I thought with a cynical internal laugh. If I have to be a pawn, at least I'm a well-compensated one. I forced a smile, the easy-going, unbothered expression I had perfected. Ms. Sterling, you flatter me. It's an honor to be part of your production. As long as I'm well paid, I'll play whatever part you want. Husband, father, you name it. Isabelle's eyes instantly turned cold. She probably hadn't expected that reaction. Not shame, not anger, just a calm, businesslike negotiation of terms. She stared at me for a long time, so long that I thought she might finally lose her temper. But in the end, she just looked away and stood up. Good. Then keep playing the part. With that, she turned and went upstairs. Watching her solitary, determined figure ascend the stairs, I felt that strange pang of disappointment again. Over the next few days, Victoria Vance began to make desperate moves. Realizing Isabelle likely had irrefutable proof of her embezzlement, she decided to go scorched earth, spreading vicious rumors about me. Did you hear? While Isabelle Sterling was in a coma, her trophy husband was keeping a whole string of mistresses. No way. He always seemed so harmless. Harmless? It's an act. My friends saw him leaving a hotel with a supermodel. They were all over each other. The rumors, accompanied by expertly photoshopped pictures, spread like wildfire through the city's elite circles. Everyone was waiting to see how Isabelle would react. A woman who just came back from the dead, only to find out her husband betrayed her. The drama was too juicy to ignore. Even Arthur, the house manager, came to me with a worried look. Sir, these photos, they're fake, I said, calmly sipping my tea. Shouldn't you explain that to Ms. Sterling? No need. What was there to explain? She already thought the worst of me. I was actually curious to see how she would handle this scene in her little play. The next day, Isabelle gave me her answer. She didn't call a press conference or hire a reputation management firm to scrub the internet. Instead, she used Sterling Industries' official channels to announce something that stunned everyone. Sterling Industries was launching a new $10 billion renewable energy initiative, codenamed Project Nova. And the person chosen to lead this massive project wasn't her brother, Julian, or any of the company's seasoned executives. It was me, Liam Hayes. At the bottom of the press release was a personal statement from Isabelle. The media later dubbed it the most epic defense of a husband in corporate history. She wrote, regarding the personal character of my husband, Liam Hayes, Sterling Industries has neither the authority nor the need to comment. I will only say 3 things. First, I believe in my husband. Second, even if he had made a mistake, that is a private matter for our family to handle, not a subject for public gossip. Third, and most importantly, the man I, Isabelle Sterling, chose to marry is better than 99% of the men in this world, even if he does nothing at all. Whatever he wants to do, he will have my unconditional support because I have absolute faith in his vision and his abilities. Today, I am entrusting him with Project Nova. I invite you all to watch what he does with it. The announcement completely flipped the narrative. The same people who had been laughing at me, the kept man, were now speechless. A $10 billion project, handed over just like that? This wasn't just trust. This was a breathtaking, audacious display of devotion. In the face of a $10 billion vote of confidence, the petty rumors about some model seemed laughably insignificant. Who would believe that a man with that kind of power at his fingertips would risk it all for a cheap affair? Victoria Vance's smear campaign had been obliterated. I stared at the news on my phone, speechless for a long time. This woman, she always found the most unexpected and most effective way to solve a problem. That night, Isabelle came home late, smelling faintly of wine. She collapsed onto the sofa, rubbing her temples wearily. I brought her a glass of warm water. She took a sip, then looked up at me, her eyes glistening under the lights. Liam, yeah, a $10 billion project. Are you scared? What's there to be scared of? I smiled. If it fails, it's your money anyway. She laughed at that, and the exhaustion in her face seemed to melt away. Is that all the ambition you have? Still smiling, she beckoned to me. I walked over and knelt in front of her. She reached out, and this time there was no hesitation. Her hand came to rest on my stomach. Through the thin fabric of my shirt, I could feel the warmth of her palm. My body went rigid. Her fingers began to trace lazy circles over my abs. The touch was sensual, but her eyes were sharp and clear. "Liam," she whispered, leaning so close I could feel her breath on my ear, "as a reward for not embarrassing me today, I'll let you touch me back." My own breath hitched in my throat. This woman was going to be the death of me. Chapter 8. Jasmine Croft sat in her sprawling corner office, the city lights of New York glittering below her. In her hands was a file she had been reading for the last 30 minutes. It was Liam Hayes' file. "Ma'am, this is the background check you requested on Mr. Hayes," her assistant said, standing nervously to the side. Jasmine didn't look up. She just tapped a line on the page. "This Blackstone Capital. What is it?" "It's an anonymously registered offshore investment firm, ma'am. They maintain an extremely low profile, but are known to be incredibly powerful," the assistant recited. 3 years ago, they executed a hostile takeover of one of our competitors. Their methods were surgically precise. The target company was bankrupt and liquidated within a month. We tried to investigate them at the time, but hit a dead end. Jasmine's eyes drifted to the firm's incorporation date. 5 years ago, the same year Liam and Isabelle got married. A coincidence? She read on. The report detailed Liam's useless existence for the past 5 years. Daily routines of gym, food, and playing with his cat. No attendance at any business functions. A social circle as clean as a freshly wiped slate. On the surface, he was the perfect trophy husband. But the final page of the report contained an analysis from a top-tier corporate strategist. 3 years ago, Croft Holdings' renewable energy project in Europe failed after a rival firm preemptively secured key patents. Our post-mortem analysis suggested an intelligence leak. The rivals seemed to anticipate our every move. 1 month before the project's failure, Liam Hayes was in Europe on vacation. 2 years ago, our planned acquisition of Innovatech was thwarted at the last minute when a mysterious buyer outbid us by a factor of 3. Innovatech was later sold to our biggest competitor at an inflated price, triggering a cash flow crisis that nearly bankrupted them. The mysterious buyer used an account funded by Blackstone Capital. During that same period, Liam Hayes' only noted interest was day trading. One by one, seemingly unrelated events were strung together. Every single one occurred at a critical juncture for Croft Holdings, and every single one coincided, in time and location, with the idle activities of Liam Hayes. Jasmine's heart sank. She remembered his expression in the living room. That look of pity. At the time, she had thought it was humiliation. Now she understood. It was the look of someone at the summit, gazing down at an arrogant challenger still struggling at the base of the mountain. She remembered Isabelle's words. "You needn't worry yourself about discovering my husband's talents." It wasn't a wife's blind devotion. It was a statement of fact from someone who knew the truth all along. She was the fool. She had seen herself as a savior, reaching down to rescue a diamond from the rough. She never realized he wasn't a diamond in the rough. He was a dragon, merely resting in the shade. A bitter, self-deprecating laugh escaped her lips. Jasmine tossed the report onto her desk and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. For the first time, the vibrant city lights felt harsh and mocking. The man she had looked down upon, the man she had personally cast aside, had been operating on a level she couldn't even comprehend, watching her struggle and strive from his lofty perch. The irony was crushing. A tidal wave of regret washed over her, and for a moment, it felt like she was going to drown. Chapter 9. Isabelle's campaign of vengeance was far from over. After launching Project Nova, she dropped a series of other bombshells. First, she worked with federal regulators to shut down all of Victoria Vance's companies involved in illicit activities. Next, she released a complete chain of evidence to the press, detailing how Victoria had used her charitable foundation as a front for money laundering. Overnight, Victoria went from being an admired visionary entrepreneur and philanthropist to a social pariah. Her business empire crumbled under Isabelle's relentless assault. I followed the drama like it was a prestige TV series, watching in admiration as Isabelle outmaneuvered her enemies at every turn. And my job as the head of a $10 billion project. It mostly consisted of having dinner with Isabelle, taking walks with her around the estate, and occasionally giving her a shoulder rub when she was tired. Project Nova itself? Oh, I'd handed that off to my subordinate, Marcus, on day one. All I had to do was listen to his daily progress reports and then relay the information to Isabelle, pretending it was my own work. This winning by doing nothing lifestyle was even better than I had imagined. One evening, as I was savoring a lobster bisque made by Chef Antoine, Marcus called. "Sir, go ahead," I said, enjoying a spoonful of the rich soup. "Ms. Sterling has run into a problem," Marcus said in his usual calm tone. "Oh, the people backing Victoria Vance have made their move. It's the DeWitt family of DeWitt Properties. They've used their influence to bury the key piece of evidence implicating Ms. Vance in the attempted murder plot." I finished my soup. The DeWitts? The real estate dynasty. The same. The family patriarch has a long-standing connection to Victoria Vance's mother. It appears they are fully committed to protecting her. "I see," I said simply. "Shall we intervene?" I thought for a moment, glancing up toward the second-floor study where Isabelle was working. She had been running herself ragged over this for the past few days. "Buy them out," I said, wiping my mouth and making a decision. "Sir," Marcus sounded taken aback for the first time. I said, "By DeWitt Properties." I repeated, my tone as casual as if I were asking him to pick up a bottle of wine. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Yes, sir. I estimate it will take 3 days. You have one." "Yes, sir." I could hear a tremor of excitement in Marcus's voice now. After hanging up, I had the kitchen prepare a delicate panna cotta and brought it upstairs. In the study, Isabelle was frowning at a mountain of legal documents. She forced a smile when she saw me. "Still up? Brought you a little something," I said, placing the dessert beside her. "Don't work too hard. It will all work out." "Work out," she said with a bitter laugh. "The DeWitts are blocking me at every turn. They're an old money institution, deeply entrenched. Even my father wouldn't dare to openly challenge them." For the first time, she looked genuinely defeated. Looking at her, I felt an unexpected pang of protectiveness. Even the strongest people have their breaking point. I reached out, pulled her into my arms, and gently rubbed her back. Her body tensed for a second, but she didn't push me away. "Don't worry," I whispered in her ear. "Get some sleep. When you wake up tomorrow, everything will be different." She buried her face in my chest and mumbled a quiet, "Okay." In that moment, holding her felt more satisfying than the thought of any 9-figure payout. Maybe the ultimate form of lying flat wasn't about enjoying a life of solitary leisure. Maybe it was about having someone by your side who made you want to hold up the sky for them. Chapter 10 the next day, a magnitude 8 earthquake shook the foundations of the financial world. DeWitt Properties, the real estate Goliath that had stood for decades, had been acquired overnight. A mysterious firm known as Blackstone Capital had executed a stunningly aggressive hostile takeover, completing the entire transaction in a matter of hours. The DeWitt family, once titans of industry, had been unceremoniously dethroned. The news broke while Isabelle was in the middle of a critical board meeting. Her original plan had been to risk everything, to leverage all her personal assets, and wage all-out war against the DeWitts. But halfway through the meeting, her assistant, Chloe, burst into the room, her face flushed with excitement. "Ms. Sterling, you have to see this. It's incredible. DeWitt Properties, they've been bought out." The entire boardroom fell silent. Every single board member sat frozen, staring in stunned disbelief. Isabelle was speechless. She shot to her feet. "What did you just say?" "It's true. It was Blackstone Capital, the same firm from 3 years ago. They moved on to DeWitt this morning. The family is finished." Isabelle sank back in her chair, her mind reeling. Blackstone Capital? Why would they help her? Instinctively, one person came to mind. The man who was probably at home right now, leisurely feeding his cat. The man who had told her, "When you wake up tomorrow, everything will be different." At the same time, Victoria Vance's world came to its final, definitive end. Without the protection of the DeWitt family, the crucial piece of evidence, a black box recording from the hire driver's car, capturing their entire transaction, was immediately turned over to the authorities. The proof was irrefutable. That afternoon, Victoria was arrested at JFK Airport while trying to flee the country. As the police led her away, she was hysterical, screaming, "It was Isabelle. She framed me. You can't do this." But no one was listening anymore. That evening, Isabelle held a massive press conference. She stood under the bright lights, her expression calm as she recounted the entire story for the world. She spoke of Victoria's jealousy, the meticulously planned accident, and the subsequent attempt to usurp her life and her company. Throughout the conference, she shed no tears and used no emotional language. She simply stated the facts. But that cold, hard recitation of the truth was more powerful than any accusation. At the end, a reporter asked the question on everyone's mind. "Ms. Sterling, it's rumored that a mysterious benefactor was behind your victory against the DeWitt family. Can you comment on that?" Every camera in the room zoomed in on her face. Isabelle was silent for a few seconds. Then, a slow smile spread across her lips. It was a smile that could melt glaciers. Her gaze went past the cameras, as if she were looking at someone specific. There was no mysterious benefactor. The person standing behind me, from the very beginning, has only ever been one man. My husband, Liam Hayes. The room erupted. Instinctively, every head turned to the front row, where I had been sitting the whole time, completely absorbed in, peeling an orange for Isabelle. I looked up, met her gaze, and held out a perfect, seedless slice. She leaned into the microphone and opened her mouth, letting me place it on her tongue. In that instant, the flashbulbs of 100 cameras went off, turning the world into a single, brilliant white. Chapter 11. With all the storms weathered, the dust finally settled. In the study of our Greenwich home, Isabelle and I sat across from each other. On the desk between us lay the 5-year contract, its pages now slightly yellowed with age. 30 days until its expiration. "Liam," Isabelle began, her voice soft but imbued with a gravity I'd never heard before. "When I was in the coma, I heard everything you said." My gut clenched. The moment of judgment had finally arrived. I watched her, waiting for the inevitable verdict. Would she throw me out with nothing, or, "Blackstone Capital is yours, isn't it?" she asked. I didn't deny it. I just nodded. "What?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with a genuine confusion. "You have all this power, all this ability. Why would you pretend to be useless?" "Because it's easier," I said honestly. "I just want a quiet life. I don't like dealing with the drama." "So you married me as a convenient cover to help you live that quiet life?" "More or less," I admitted, rubbing my nose. The identity of Isabelle Sterling's husband was a very effective shield. Isabelle fell silent. She looked down, her long eyelashes hiding her expression. I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. I was telling her the truth, but the truth often hurts the most. After a long moment, she looked back up, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "So, after the contract is up, you're still planning to leave, right? Travel the world, eat at every Michelin-starred restaurant, open your own vineyard?" She repeated my own words back to me, every one a small puncture to the heart. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Yes, that was the dream, wasn't it? So why did the thought of leaving now feel so empty? "Liam," Isabelle said, a slow smile spreading across her face. She picked up the old contract from the table, and then, right in front of me, she slowly tore it in half. "This contract is void." My heart seemed to tear along with it, but what she did next left me utterly stunned. She opened a desk drawer, pulled out another document, and slid it across the desk to me. It wasn't a divorce agreement. It was a marriage license application. The line for the first party was already signed in elegant, forceful script. "Isabelle Sterling." "Liam," she said, her eyes sparkling like a starry night sky. "I've drafted a new contract. The term life. The terms are as follows. You, Liam Hayes, as my legal husband, are required to travel the world with me, eat at every Michelin-starred restaurant with me, and find a beautiful, quiet place where we can build a vineyard together. The penalty for breach of contract. If you dare to walk out on me, there will be no payout." She paused, leaning forward, her eyes locked on mine. "So this contract, are you going to sign it?" Chapter 12. I looked at Isabelle. at the playful, hopeful, and slightly nervous glint in her eyes. And I suddenly understood. This woman had been setting a trap for me from the very beginning. She had lured me with Michelin-starred chefs and world-class gyms. She had bound me to her with a $10 billion project and her unwavering trust. She had captivated me with a spectacular display of vengeful brilliance. She had taken every single one of my fantasies about a life of leisure and woven them into a shared future. She wasn't asking me to sign a contract. She was asking me if I was willing to give her the rest of my life. I picked up the pen and, without a moment's hesitation, signed my name on the line for the second party. Liam Hayes. As the ink dried, I looked up and met her brilliant, relieved smile. In the next second, I was on my feet, rounding the desk, and pulling her out of her chair and into my arms, holding her tight. "Isabelle," I murmured, before capturing her lips with mine. "You got a bad deal." She hummed against my mouth. "This contract needs one more clause." "What?" "Party A, that's you, is responsible for the lifelong happiness of Party B." "That's me." I deepened the kiss, swallowing any protest she might have made. Outside, the moonlight streamed through the window. In the living room below, my cat, Crouton, and the new puppy I'd gotten for Isabelle, a golden retriever named Biscuit, were curled up together, fast asleep. Beside them were two bowls, one filled with premium cat food, the other with the puppy equivalent. This I thought was true peace. A few days later, Isabelle and I went to City Hall and got our new marriage certificate. The sun was bright when we walked out. Looking at the woman beside me, who was now officially, and in every sense of the word, my wife, I decided that being transmigrated into this world wasn't so bad after all. In the distance, parked across the street, Jasmine Croft watched us from the window of a black Bentley. She saw me casually take Isabelle's purse, saw Isabelle stand on her toes to kiss my cheek, and saw us smile at each other before walking off, hand in hand. Her face was blank, but the light in her eyes slowly dimmed. She knew, with a painful certainty, that she had completely and irrevocably lost the one man who could have been hers, the man she had once thrown away like trash. As for Isabelle and me, our story was just beginning. After all, traveling the world is a very big project.